In a world where wealth speaks louder than wisdom, where luxury drowns out the cries of the forgotten, there lived a boy who had everything except perspective. His name was Adam Sterling, 17 years old, born into silk sheets, silver spoons, and shoes that never knew the dirt of the streets. He walked through life untouched by struggle, buffered by money, blind to the world beneath his feet, until one cold autumn afternoon, a stranger sitting on stone steps whispered a sentence that would change everything. "You're wearing shoes that don't belong to you." What began as a casual encounter would unravel the fabric of everything Adam thought he knew. For the first time in his life, he would trade comfort for truth and take a walk in someone else's life. This is not just a story about poverty. It's about empathy, about shedding the layers of privilege to see the humanity beneath. This is the story of borrowed shoes. In the heart of the city, where tall buildings and expensive cars painted the streets with the colors of wealth, Adam Sterling's life had always been one of luxury. Adam, 17 years old, was the son of Thomas Sterling, a successful business tycoon. Adam lived in a mansion, had the finest clothes, and spent his days at the most exclusive schools, surrounded by people who shared his lifestyle. On a cold autumn afternoon, as Adam walked down the street in his perfectly polished shoes, he encountered an old man sitting on the steps of an old bookstore. The man was bent over with a worn hat, ragged clothes, and shoes that looked as though they had seen decades of wear. Adam briefly glanced at him, but kept walking, dismissing the stranger as another beggar on the street. But something about the old man's presence made Adam pause. He felt the weight of the old man's gaze on his back, sharp and knowing. Adam, surprised by this, turned around, making eye contact with the stranger. "Son, you're wearing shoes that don't belong to you," the man said, his voice raspy but firm. Adam frowned, confused. "What do you mean? These are just shoes." The old man chuckled softly, his eyes twinkling with a wisdom that seemed beyond his years. "They're just shoes, yes, but they don't carry the weight they should. You're wearing someone else's life, my friend. How about you borrow mine for a week? You'll see the world differently with them." Adam laughed nervously. This seemed ridiculous, but the strange energy of the moment intrigued him. "What would I do with your shoes?" "Walk in them," the man replied. "Feel how heavy life can be when you've got no cushion under your feet. Just for a week. I'll be watching. I'll know if you've walked a real mile in them." Adam didn't know what to say, but before he could protest, the old man took off his shoes and handed them to him. "Go on," the man said. "I dare you." For a moment, Adam was tempted to refuse, but something about the old man's challenge, something in his eyes, stirred a curiosity he couldn't shake. With a sigh, Adam reluctantly took off his designer shoes and slid his feet into the old, battered pair. They were too big, too worn, but they fit him nonetheless. The old man nodded, satisfied, and Adam began to walk away. As he took each step, the discomfort of the shoes became apparent, but he couldn't help but wonder, what was the man trying to show him? The morning after Adam put on the old man's shoes, everything felt different. The shoes were heavy, their soles nearly flat, and every step seemed to bring him closer to the reality of life on the other side of the city. Adam usually drove his sleek sports car, but today he had to rely on his own 2 feet. His walk took him through neighborhoods he'd never noticed before. He passed by parks where homeless people slept on benches, their faces marked by age and struggle. He walked past empty storefronts, cracked sidewalks, and alleyways filled with discarded trash. As he continued on, the discomfort in the shoes matched the unease in his heart. The world around him, usually filled with glitz and glamour, seemed suddenly cold, alien, and harsh. Adam tried to ignore the glances he received. People looked at him curiously. His designer clothes didn't match the shoes, and it felt as if the entire world was judging him, despite the fact that he had always walked through life without ever considering how others might see him. He found himself near an old coffee shop, its walls faded and peeling. There, sitting on the corner of the sidewalk, was a man wrapped in layers of ragged clothing, his eyes sunken but alert. "Hey kid," the man called out. "You look lost. What's with the shoes?" Adam hesitated, then shrugged, feeling embarrassed. "They're not mine. Just trying them on." The man raised an eyebrow. "You should try living a day in someone else's shoes, kid. See if you still feel so high and mighty when you're walking the streets." That comment stuck with Adam. Someone else's shoes, he thought. I am walking in someone else's shoes. The next day, Adam made his way to a local park where many homeless people gathered. He couldn't ignore the pang of hunger that gnawed at him. His feet ached, and the shoes, once a symbol of pride, now felt like chains. He met Ben, an older man with a rugged face and a weary gaze. Ben had been homeless for nearly 15 years, having lost his family to a house fire that left him with nothing but scars, both physical and emotional. "Don't look at me like I'm some kind of tragedy, kid," Ben said as they sat together on the park bench. "I've seen plenty of those in my time." "I didn't mean to stare," Adam replied awkwardly. Ben chuckled softly. "You don't get it, do you? Most people look at us like we're invisible, but that doesn't make us less human. You ever wonder what it's like to lose everything?" Adam shifted uncomfortably. He had everything: money, comfort, privilege. But here, in Ben's presence, he felt something raw that he couldn't explain. Ben's words lingered in his mind. What would it be like to lose everything? Later that day, Adam met Maria, a mother of two who had been living on the streets for nearly a year. She had lost her job, her home, and eventually her children, who had been placed in foster care. She had tried to fight back, but the system had crushed her hopes. Maria shared her story with Adam, telling him about her children and how she missed them every day. Adam listened intently, realizing that for the first time in his life, he wasn't looking at a stranger. He was looking at a mother, a person who had suffered and fought for survival. He began to see them, not as the homeless or the other, but as human beings with stories that mirrored the struggles he had never known. Their eyes, filled with pain, also sparkled with resilience. Adam's world was slowly starting to crumble, piece by piece. The shoes, once a strange challenge, had become a symbol of something far deeper. On the 6th day of walking in the old man's shoes, Adam felt the weight of his own life press upon him. His feet were blistered, his stomach constantly growling, and his mind was filled with the voices of the people he had met. They had shared their pain, their regrets, their hopes, and in return, Adam had shared nothing but his discomfort. But now, he had begun to understand something profound. Privilege is not just about wealth. It's about being seen, being heard. That evening, as he walked through the park again, he saw Maria sitting alone, staring at the stars above. He sat down beside her. "Maria," he began, "I'm sorry. I didn't understand before. I never could have understood." She smiled softly. But it wasn't a smile of triumph. It was a smile of recognition. You've learned, kid. That's more than most will ever do. By the end of the week, Adam had changed. He knew he couldn't return to his life as it had been. His father's wealth, the mansion, the luxury, none of it seemed important anymore. Adam returned to the old bookstore where he had first met the old man, hoping to find him once more. But the man was gone. The only trace left was a small note in the window of the shop. The shoes you wear will never define you, but the life you choose to live will. Adam stood there for a moment, contemplating the words. He looked down at his feet, still in the old man's shoes. He had walked in them, and now he was ready to walk his own path. The shoes we wear are more than just a material possession. They symbolize the lives we lead and the lives we've touched. The real weight of privilege is not in what you own, but in what you choose to see. Understanding comes when we walk in someone else's shoes, not to pity them, but to truly see their humanity.